Hello everyone and welcome to workshop 2 of Teaching for Transformation. Probably some of you are well on your way to reading and writing for workshop 2, but I just wanted to wait till I had all of your workshop 1 submissions graded and back to you before I created this video this week so that I could talk a little bit about that in comparison what you all did in comparison to what I was thinking, and then give you a little bit of insight for workshop 2. So let's first talk about the papers. First of all, by and large, you guys did a really great job. I can kind of tell those of you who have had me in the past and you knew exactly what I was wanting in terms of title page, abstract, header, headings, citations, references, all of that. Most of you who have had me before just nailed that. Some of you haven't had me before and I wasn't critical about it, but what you're really going to want to do is look at the assignment expectations 2.3. And it actually lists all of the things, all of the elements your paper must include. So every paper submitted, I know you're going to think it's a pain if you haven't had me in class before, but every paper must have a title page correctly formatted, an abstract, an introduction, a conclusion, headings throughout, a header, references, and remember citing the sources. So this week it should be Mathey and Keeley, as well as at least 2 others. And some of you found some fantastic outside sources. I actually was like adding to my Amazon book list or downloading PDFs as I was reading your papers. So great job some of you did in finding outside sources to support your paper and support your work, especially in finding what exactly is transformational teaching. And just a point of caution, there is a lot of dialogue out there in the world of education and learning theory about transformational teaching, which is really good because it's wonderful when we can borrow from secular education and from learning theory in general. And so that's really good. But it's important to make the distinction between what a lot of those authors were talking about in terms of what is transformational teaching and what Mathey means and what we mean by it. Because when we talk transformation, it's changing to become like Christ, not just change for the sake of change. And so borrowing from the outside is excellent. And some of you found, like I said, some great sources. Just make sure that in your mind, you're really clear about the distinction between what some of those secular sources were talking about and what we're referencing and what Mathey is talking. And so comparing and then contrasting is what you want to do. I was looking for 2 key things beside papers that are correctly formatted. I was looking for 2 key things. One is that you could clearly and succinctly state for me in your own words what is transformational teaching in a Christian context. So I was looking for that. And then I was looking for who should be teaching. And again, Mathey approached it from a couple of varieties. And some of you borrowed from her heavily. Some of you did some her and scripture. Some of you did her and scripture. And some of your sources from other courses. If you've had congregational spiritual formation, you have sources you can borrow from. If you've had effective communication with children, youth, and family, some of you were borrowing from those sources. So feel free to reference sources from other courses that you've had in the past, spiritual life and leadership, or any of the, if you're an MDiv student, any of the spiritual formation courses. So feel free to leverage some of those other texts that you've had in the past, and then of course additional outside sources. So those were the 2 things that I was really looking for you to narrow in on. If you narrowed in on those, if your paper was clean and clear, and if you had leveraged some outside sources, then you had full points. And so that's what I was really looking for this week. So coming forward in workshop 2, what you're going to want to look for in 2.3, you're reading the Keeley text for that assignment. It's a small book. You can fly through it. He identifies 12 essentials that there are to teaching for formation, 12 essentials. And then you're going to identify what are your 12 essentials. Now, some of them might be the same as the author. I would hope that some of them are the same. And you would say, I concur with Keeley on these 6, 7, whatever, essentials. But in my context and based on my experience, these other essentials would comprise my 12. And those can be from other sources. Those can be from scripture. Those can be from Mathey. Okay, so just so we're clear, 12 total, some from Keeley, and then some from elsewhere. I don't want all Keeley. I don't want no Keeley. Okay, so some kind of combination, Keeley and something else. It could be just Keeley and Mathey. That would be fine. But you also have to have other sources in there, remember? So, okay. And 12.1 and 12.2 are, 12.1 is based on Mathey. So that is looking at chapter 4 of Mathey. Remember, we talked about what is transformational teaching. We defined it. And then we said, and who should be teaching? And in chapter 4, she talks about what is it? And now you might see some similarity between how you define transformational teaching and what is it. So if you repeat yourself, if you in the discussion forum use some of the work that you did for your paper, that's fine. It can't be copy, cut and paste, but you can leverage some of the work and some of the research that you did, especially some of you who had some really fantastic outside sources. That would be a great thing to do to add to. So what does Mathey say? And what else did I find? Now, I remember I said that there's only need for one response to that discussion forum, but because of that, that really ups the ante on what I expect in terms of your initial post and the timeliness of it. So that I sent that rubric via email. If you didn't get it, send me a note and I'll send it to you again, because if it's on time, which is before the end of the day, Tuesday, that's 3 points, 15 points for solid content that demonstrates you truly engaged the text and grasp the ideas. So if you give me, just a really brief summative statement, you're not going to get 15 points for that. So you got to show me that you're doing the work, okay? And then by Thursday, you have to respond to somebody else. Now, it's usually Thursday, end of the day. If you do Thursday by the end of the day, you'll get 24 out of 25, because there's one bonus point flying out there for people who post their response to somebody else, substantive, not, wow, that was really great. I agree, that I see that too. That's the same thing I experienced. Not that kind of a response, okay? Solid, significant, adding to the conversation kind of a response, and done in a timely way so that the originator, the original author, has time to respond to your response, okay? Because if we wait till 11:59 to post our response, they're not ever going to read it. Let's just be honest. So if that's not clear, let me know. But that's a little bit of a game changer, because there's only expectation for one. So that means the original and that one have a little bit higher expectations than if it was 1 + 2. Okay? And then the other thing is, and then 12.2 is you identifying in your context, how are you doing? So you define transformational teaching. Mathey defines transformational teaching. Based on those two things, how are you currently doing? How are you currently doing? And you might be doing great, you might be doing average, you might be doing terrible. There is no right or wrong, just how are you doing? And then defend it. So if you say, we're doing absolutely fantastic, then tell me why. Prove to me why you're doing fantastic. If you're doing terrible, tell me why you're doing terrible. Okay? So on to this second week, we're still kind of laying the foundation. We're not getting into the nitty-gritty quite yet. Next week, we'll look at then the analyze, start looking at more of the analyzing, looking at the group that you're focusing on. But one more week of laying some groundwork. I look forward to it. If you have any questions on the comments that I offered on your paper, let me know. I'm always open to a conversation about that. But otherwise, have a wonderful week. I'll be traveling all day Wednesday, and so I won't be online at all that day. So I'll check tomorrow evening, and then I will check again Thursday sometime. But don't look for me to be responding to discussions on Wednesday. Otherwise, great work so far. I really appreciate the way that you're digging in a summer class and an elective. Appreciate the work that you've done. Looking forward to reading more. Bye-bye.